Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Friday, February 6th. Thank God it's Friday, guys. It's been a crazy week, hasn't it? Full of rotations, some crazy selling. Today we are off the lows, though. Yesterday was pretty brutal at the end there. You had Amazon earnings come out at the very end, and they got punished too, like the rest of the group. Forget where the Amazon is at right now. Oops, God, excuse me, but let me see. You can find an Amazon price, but man, that's yeah, it's down $18 right now. It was down like $30 yesterday, but so 18 so far. But man, it is pretty freaking brutal. So it's pretty hard sell off this week. See if it subsides a bit, or if they're going to be more to come. At least there's a starting off with a breather. It doesn't mean it's going to end like that. So as we what to look forward to today. Now, today we were supposed to get that employment situation, not coming out until next week. So the only thing we have on tap is consumer sentiment at 10, and that's about it. So consumer sentiment at 10 is what we get. Other than that, we just had to see if this little retracement from yesterday's in the overnight is going to have any legs, or if they're going to kind of fall apart here as the day session kicks in. Uh, on the ES, it's not as bad on the ES. Nasdaq is the one which really is getting hammered hard, and you can see the ES has taken out that three-letter ledge 6820. They were down here at yesterday's trading. They didn't quite close there, but then no, actually they closed even lower. They closed down there because they had this Amazon thing. That's what that Q draft down there is. So they closed at the lows, and then they took it even lower in the open, blew it even lower, and right down to this attractor we talked about 67.60, and then bounced off that one, and that could be just a bounce off that high volume area. So that doesn't necessarily mean that then the selling is over. So a bounce could be one of those dead cat bounces, as you say, and we'll see if that gets any traction or not. But I'm going to start off range bound right now with a bias to the downside still. Given the overnight, I'm going to look for early strength and see if they can make it go out of it. If they start getting up above that 85s to 95s here, these two resistance areas, same as we talked about yesterday, we may go back range bound on this one. But right now, this whole thing, it's an overnight reaction and bounce off the low. And it could just be exactly that, which means that day session could just reverse this whole thing right from the get-go. So I would be looking for early strength given the overnight. I would look for short opportunities against the 65s, 85s, and 95s. Not, I would not be super aggressive on these. I would look for them to start failing, and before I try a short trade. In other words, I'm looking for that failure to actually materialize. If they're going to start to try to take this higher and start running over some of these levels and get it up in these in the 7,000s, sorry, in the 6,900s again, I want to be. I don't want to be on the wrong side of that trade. But it's given what's happened the last few days, I would not be super aggressive on the long side, hopping on that one super aggressively. I would wait for these resistance areas to come out, getting up in the 6,900 level again, and I'll go back range bound and start looking for more strength. But at this point, it's I'm looking at this as a bounce off the lows. Some nice bargain hunting going on in the overnight, and looking for short setups against these upper levels. If they start taking out these lows again, and I think the two support areas to pay attention to, if they're running it down, which are most likely is going to do a little bit of 6820 down to the 6800s. These two support areas, if both of them comes out, bets are off. We are heading lower at that point. Because they stalled at 6,800 quite a while for a bit yesterday, and then that was that final earnings at the very end. It looks like they were actually retracing a bit, and the earning kicks in, and the whole thing has kind of collapsed on us. So support area at 6,800, I think is going to be important for today's trading. If that comes out, I'm just going to stay on the short side after that. So initially, I would be looking at buying against these two, 6820 and 6,800, with a bit of caution. The early ones, There's an opportunity, but the 68.35, you're trading at 68.45 now, so they could certainly hold that support. You're gonna just take those with a grain of salt and look to buy against them with a bit of caution. I think the better buys would come here at the 68.20 and the 6800 if they get that far down. So we'll see if this is going to turn into a little bit of a day of strength, or it's going to be just a brutal bloodbath again as the day session kicks in. So that's how we get started on the NASDAQ. On the NASDAQ, we are already down here in overnight at that 24,200. So we are right in this low volume area right now. And I mean, you can see this bloodbath is just nothing but ugly. And it's just non-stop the last few days of hammering the market. Now, the NASDAQ has a lot more work to do before I start getting excited about the long side of that guy. So 24 960s. Where is that? 960s. It's going to be up here when you start getting into this 25,000 to 25,200, 100 to 200. This area of resistance, that is what's going to have to come out before I start thinking about the long side again. Otherwise, I'm going to look for short setups all the way up here to that 25 100s. So looking for short setup. Given the bounce, I mean, they ran it lower right into this low volume area, bounced hard. But again, they're just heading back up here to resistance. This is pretty good resistance they're running into right now. And again, same as the ES, I'm going to be looking for early strength given the overnight. So yeah, they retrace pretty good. It looks like they're on the rally, on the roll, retracing most of the day session from yesterday, but we'll see. They're going to have to get past up back back up above the 870s and the 950s, these two resistance areas, take out the high of yesterday's day session, start retracing even further than that, get up above this 25,000 before I start thinking, yeah, maybe we have, this is not going to turn into a bloodbath again. Now, I can see a couple of long trades here. That would be between that 870 to the 930s. 940s here, or if they take out the 950s and start heading up here towards the 25,000s. So this could be a nice long trade if they start with if you get further or a little bit more early strength if you wish. So and I would not look at that as a long trade. I would look at that as an opportunity running it up here to the next level of resistance. So that's a little bit of caution on those. But those are the ones I can see as potential long trades in today's trading early on. But I would look for short setups against these resistance areas. And if we start seeing a grind to the upside in the afternoon, that's when I start thinking, yeah, there's more risk on behavior. The early strength doesn't mean that you're going to close on the upside. It just means that the little bargain hunting going on, driving out weak short positions. So people on the short side of this, which entered late, they're going to get squeezed. And then when that's done, then they can certainly start running that lower. So that's going to be the big question for today. Are they going to be able to get up above that 25,000 levels and hold it, or are they going to just turn around and hammer it going into the close? So that's what we're looking at. Definitely February started off with a big good smacking. Crypto's way down in the 60,000s for Bitcoin. They're getting hammered pretty good. Bounced a little bit in right now, but it could be further weakness to go there. But it's surprising though how violent these moves are. You know, once I've been talking about this elevator down, haven't I? But yeah, it's going to grind higher. But when you get these elevator down days, it's absolutely brutal. And this is what it looks like. You see stocks like Microsoft down below $400, and that's a pretty big company, right? Just absolutely getting annihilated. And it's all about ETF selling. So ETF selling baskets of stocks, and a basket of stocks, it's just indiscriminate. It just sells the whole basket. Doesn't matter if a couple of good companies are part of it. So that's why those companies get annihilated like that. And algos as well, hammers things pretty darn hard. So it's not people trading though when it happens, when it goes like that. On the bond side of things, the bond market is just yawning at this whole thing. They just kind of, yeah, okay, whatever. And again, yes, back nice move to the upside yesterday. That's an interesting move, bigger than normal. Overnight popped all the way to 116, and we're still just in the range. And I'm just going to look at this as a range bound market again. And we have the only thing we do, we just start off kind of where we end up in the day session open and look for 2-3 levels up, 2-3 levels down, and that usually keeps us in a day session range. Right now, yesterday was a little bit of an outlier. It'll say usually you get these pretty tight configuration. Now, if there's an issue in the bond market, that one is going to move, and you'll see a lot of action happening. So that is a definite market to pay attention to if it starts moving. But right now, it's kind of holding steady. I would look to buy against support right now against the 1516s, against the 1510s, and down to that 1505s. I'm going to sell strength against the 1524s and this 116s for rotations back down again. So that's pretty much it. It could be a nice short trade if to take out that level, set 1510, retracing these single print C prints. And I would look to buy against that 15 three-letter ledge. Should I drag this guy a tad, leave it down like that? Sorry about that. Late adjustment there, but you want to be right here at that edge, three-letter edge if you're going to try to buy against that one, 115.03, because likely it's going to bounce off that one at least a couple of ticks. But anyway, so that's the bond market. I don't know if you trade it or watch it, but it is a different animal altogether. So, and it can yield some nice trades if you get on the right side of it. So overall on the Nasdaq, we'll see if we get crazy again. I mean, yesterday I did not take any trade. Well, I took a trade late when it started catching up, but I can tell when my computer is not catching up when all the ticks coming through, and I just gonna sit on the sidelines because that's getting too volatile at that point. You know, I'm gonna have to get a better computer again. It seems like the volume when they start kicks in a lot more. Need to get better graphics cards, I guess. Anyway, not urgent. For me right now, it's almost a tell that when you get so much volume that your computer starts lagging, as things start getting churny like that, that's a good sign that you should probably stay out of the market for a bit instead of trying to trade it the way you usually do it, because you're just going to get shaken out left and right and you just get frustrated. So watch for opportunities. So we're looking for early strength on the ES and Nasdaq and see how far they want to take it. And then the big key question is if they're going to reverse and start heading lower. And I would say that if they start taking out on the ES, the 68.30.35 here, the mean from yesterday, and they have a little support area right there. If that starts coming out, I would stop looking for that early strength and start looking for maybe weakness. Same thing on the Nasdaq. If they take out that 700 to 720 support area, I would start looking for more weakness at that point if that starts coming out. So we'll see. Early strength needs to kind of happen right from the get-go, but it could happen all the way up to like that 11:30 London close time. So we'll see. Alrighty, guys, we'll wrap it there. So it's a Friday. Let's see how this whole thing develops. It's going to be interesting after a few days of bloodbath. You feel pretty bruised, ready for a cocktail when the day wraps up, right? So I'll leave it there for now. So I'll see you back at 11:30. Guys, trade well, and I'll see you back then.